Hi guys, my name is Mordinson, and I'm standing right now in front of our office here in Kharkov, and I want to take you to the central square of the city. It's called Liberty Square. As you may know, we still here in Ukraine. It's still the holiday season. So there is a very nice fair at the Liberty Square, and because it's only a few minutes away, I want to walk there with you. And while I'm walking, I'm going to show you what's around, and then when we get there, we'll check out the fair itself. It's supposed to be pretty cool. There are lots of things happening there. They have lots of barbecue. There is an ice rink. Of course, a huge Christmas tree and lots of entertainment. So let's go and check it out. The building where our office is located and also our apartments are located is a newly built living complex, which is in the center of the city. The building that you see right behind me now is an older building, and those were built in late 1920s, and it was very interesting because during that time, of course, there was predominant communist ideology, and according to the ideology, people of future, the communists, will be sharing everything or almost everything. And one of the things I want to show you, if I can turn the camera. I'm not sure how can I do that. Anyways, if you look at all these ventilation shafts there, basically the architects truly believe that in future people are not going to be using their own personal kitchens because everybody will be eating in canteens that are located in the building. So people will not have to worry about cooking at home. In reality, what happened is that just like most of other ideas of communists, it didn't work because people want to be able to eat at home and eat in the comfort of their home, also eat the food they made, not somebody else made. So basically, after a little while, people wanted to get the kitchens, but you must have the ventilation if you want to have a kitchen, and hence all those ventilation shafts. Now I'm already at the Science Avenue. Right behind me is right there. This is the medical university, and when I'm closer to it, I'll show you all the flags which represent the countries from where the students of the university come. And yeah, it's not very busy today. As you can see, there are not so many cars because it's Sunday, so not too much traffic, which is kind of nice. It's actually a very beautiful day. It's about maybe 5 degrees below zero, so it's kind of cold. It's not cold, but it's a little chilly, and it's sunny. It's very nice. One of probably the most famous Russian poets and writer, Alexander Sergeyevich Pushkin, had a verse which was like that. It said, "Cold and sun, what a beautiful day." So I can say the same thing about this day. So I wanted to show you the flags. This is the medical university here. Of course, it's not the only building they have. They have also several around the city. In Ukraine, the way it works with the universities and campuses, we do not have separate territories where the universities are located and where the students live. Most of the universities are actually in the city center, and I'm I'm almost at the Liberty Square already, and on the Liberty Square there are two huge buildings which belong to the Kharkov National University, and so I'm going to be there in just a minute. And this guy here, I hope you can see him, the guy on the horse. His name, it's a legend, but they say the Kharkov was founded by a guy who was a Cossack, and his name was Kharkov, and hence the name of the city which he founded was Kharkov, which means something that belongs to Kharkov. So that, but there is also a different opinion saying that basically it's the city is called after the river, which was called Kharkov even before people started living here. So now I'm already at the square, and you can probably hear the noise that the cars make. This is the cobblestone here on the square. This square has a very interesting history because back in early 1920s, Kharkov became the capital of the Soviet Union. The capital of Soviet Ukraine, and because the communists and Bolsheviks had a pretty strong hold here, so they made Kharkov a capital. And but really, Kharkov, even though it was a major city in the Russian Empire and everything, because it was a trade center, it didn't really look like a capital. It was more of a trade city, and so they wanted to create an architectural ensemble which will be imposing, which will make Kharkov look like a capital. So they created this square and the buildings around it. So I'm going to show you the symbol of Kharkov, I dare say, because this is normally the building which you see when you try to Google Kharkov. It's called Gazprom, not Gazprom, the Russian gas and oil company. It's Gazprom, which means state industry. I'm not sure why they would call it this way, but anyways, so you can see this building, and to me, if I didn't know, I would say that it was built maybe 20, maybe 30 years ago. It looks pretty modern to me, but in reality, it was built in 1929. So just imagine how futuristic and how out of this world this place looked, this building looked back there in 1929, when there were no cars here, people were still riding horses. And this building here, I don't know if you can see because the sun is shining, is right there in the camera. This is the building of the Kharkov National University, and this is the building of Kharkov National University as well. So they have two big buildings on the square. So it's Gazprom just behind me. It might be interesting for you to know that American engineers were participating in building that structure behind me, Gazprom, just like they were participating in the building of probably the largest tractor factory, which later on turned to produce T-34, famous Soviet tank. So Americans were here in Kharkov big time, American business, you can say, and American companies. Okay, so now I'm walking. This is a little park here in the middle of the square, and just a few years back, in front of me I would see the 20-meter high statue of Lenin. It was knocked down in 2014, in October 2014, if I remember well. Actually, I think it was on the 1st of October 2014, because I kind of remember that day because I was not in the city. I was not in Kharkov. on that day, but I was in Ukraine. So when I come back to my hotel room late at night, and I just decided to check out the news, and the first scene in the news, breaking news, people are knocking down the Lenin monument in Kharkov, which was pretty amazing. So now, right now, you see they're doing some work. That's why the fence. So we will walk around it now. Okay, so I think this is a better shot of the university. One of my sisters went to this university studying mathematics. She lives in Vienna nowadays, in Austria. Okay, so there on the side you can see now the trees. I wish it was springtime and it would be all green and beautiful, but this is the beginning of the Shevchenko Park, or Shevchenko Garden as they call it. But yeah, I'm walking down the square already. The sound you just heard is a train for kids they can ride. So even from the distance you can see the tree already. It's right there. Okay. You know what? When the wind blows like this, it actually feels much colder. But I looked at the weather forecast and it said that it will be cold tonight, like down to about 10 degrees below zero. But then starting from Monday, it will go back to like -3, -4, and then in a couple of days later it will be back to zero again. So I'm not sure what's that in Fahrenheit, but zero is really not that cold. People have been complaining about this winter in Kharkov because people here, they're used to snow, and you can see there is not even a hint of snow. It's really no, even though it's cold, but not much snow at all. Okay, now I'm at the square already. So I will go through the food court and show you what's happening, what people are getting. Different types of... That's what they call shashlik in Kharkov, in Ukraine, I know, and also everywhere in the former Soviet Union. Meat on skewer. Also, it's very popular to drink. Yeah, that's what it looks like. This is shashlik. So you put a piece of meat, marinated meat, and put it on a skewer. And then you bake it over the coals. It's still pretty early in the morning, so not so many people. In the evening it becomes a lot more crowded, but I wanted to come here, and while it's still, not dark. Place where they make sausages. They fry them over the fire as well here. People lining up to get their sausage. It's actually very nice. More shashlik here. Another thing which is very traditional to do is drink glint wine. It's basically hot wine with spices. So I personally don't like it very much because it's It's has too much spice for me, but people love it. When I was in Poland, I tried a drink called Grzane Pivo or something like that. Anyways, it's a warm beer. It's like hot beer actually, and you would think it's disgusting, right? Hot beer, warm beers, it stinks, right? But actually, it's actually very, very good. I was surprised. Okay, so this is the ice rink. I think we came here last year to make a video about this place. So I want to show you. They're cleaning the ice right now. Some people. We'll come back here when there are people skating. Okay, so this is the tree. Okay, Mulberry wine. Here they offer cherry wine, which is something unusual, I guess. Lots of different types of warm drinks, alcohol drinks, to keep the people warm and happy. Some horses here for people who like riding horses, I guess. For kids, the ponies. The building that you see right now, the one in front of you, is the governor's office. That's where the governor of Kharkov region is. That's her office basically. In Ukraine, the mayors of the cities are elected by the people, and the governors are appointed by the president of Ukraine. So we have a city council which is headed by the mayor, and we have the governor. Who she's also this lady. She's also from Kharkov, but she was appointed by the president. So that was the Liberty Square of Kharkov. See, this is basically the entrance where I came from the back, but normally you would come through the entrance. This is it says here, Happy New Year. Yeah. So now I will walk down the Sumskaya street to the Gorky Park, because it's another very, very beautiful place in Kharkov. And many people who come to the city after visiting Gorky Park, they absolutely amazed, they're blown away. Generally, Kharkov is a very nice place. The nicest thing about Kharkov, of course, is the feeling. Even though it's a big city, it's the population of Kharkov is almost 2 million people. It still has the smaller town feel. It's not the life here, even though it's a life of a large city, it's not as crazy, not as fast-paced as most of the larger cities you find. Even when I go to Kiev, I can feel the difference. So behind me is the exit from the subway station and the advertising of the taxi company. So I will be showing you some of the older buildings here on the Sumskaya street. That's a newer building. This is the business center. See how we managed to put it between two older buildings. Kharkov is not a Rome and not Paris, but we have some beautiful architecture here as well. Actually, considering the fact that during the World War II, Kharkov was under Nazi occupation for almost 2 years, the way the historical center looks nowadays, it's quite impressive actually. Doesn't look run down, doesn't look ruined at all. So it's interesting, in this building was the first consulate of Germany in Russian Empire, in first consulate in Kharkov. Actually nowadays there is a consulate of Germany as well, so, but not in this building. That's a beautiful one. Walking is something people in Kharkov and in general in Ukraine do a lot, and this is one of those things which people who come here from abroad and especially from the North America, they notice right away, because people here are used to long walks and they do a lot of it. I guess it has something to do with the fact that in the past it was like during the Soviet times, it was very difficult to obtain a car, to buy a car. There was a shortage of cars for civilian people. If you were not a party official or somebody I don't know, the head of the party in the city or whatever, or somebody important like working in law enforcement or whatever, it was difficult to get a car. There is a very funny joke which Ronald Reagan told. So this guy in Soviet Union comes to buy a car and they say, well, the wait is 10 years. You need to make a deposit now, and then 10 years later we're going to deliver the car. That's okay. So he makes the deposit and he asks, look, 10 years later, this day he figures out the day when the car is supposed to be delivered. Says, what time will the car be delivered? Will it be in the morning, afternoon, or evening? And they say, what difference does it make if it's going to be morning, afternoon, or evening? It's gonna be like in 10 years. And he goes, well, you see, the plumber is coming in the morning. So when I first heard it, I cracked it. It's very funny. But in reality, I mean, you probably had to wait actually even longer than that. You had to stand in a queue, like you put your name in a queue and then you wait and then you wait even more. And I was born in 1984, so I remember just a little bit of the late Soviet Union. So I was born basically when perestroika after I was born, Gorbachev, soon after I was born, Gorbachev became the general secretary. And yeah, so I remember a little bit of Soviet Union, and some of the things I remember were not very nice. Like I remember that we had to wake up really early to go buy the bread, because the bakery would start working at 8, I guess, and we were supposed to be there waiting in line at like 6:30, because otherwise you would not be able to get the bread, because it was, difficult to get freshly baked bread. And we're talking about Kharkov, which was, I think, in top 5 largest cities of Soviet Union. It wasn't a village, where there is nothing. It's a major city. And okay, so now I came. This place here is the marriage registry office, and it's not like it's very interesting, because in the past, before the communists, people were getting married in churches naturally. But then when the communists came to power, churches became, something of the past, and you were not supposed to go to church for the marriage ceremony. So they created a civil ceremony, but because people wanted to have a beautiful ceremony, something nice, they made sure that those ceremonies they are held in nice, beautiful buildings with some kind of beautiful setting and some nice words that the lady says. It's not like really just business. She will say a couple of things about your family and so on. So it's and it still exists, and people come here to get officially married. But then later people can go to a church as well. So it's better. This building has a very interesting history. Actually, it was built originally for the Russian Tsar, who came to Kharkov for a visit. He stayed here for a couple of weeks. I think it was in 1909, but I may be wrong about that. So he was when he was traveling across the empire. Of course, it was something that people knew ahead of the time, and he couldn't just stay in some hotel or something like that. So they built this house for him and his family. We're talking about the Tsar, Nikolai II. And so they stayed here while he was in Kharkov. I guess they were here for like 2 weeks or something. And then when he was gone, it was bought by a businessman who lived here until the revolution, until the 1917. And then it was just taken away. And at some point it became the marriage palace, what they call it. This is a music school, by the way. That's where the kids come for their music classes. I'm just walking around it to show it to you. It's pretty neat inside. If you go on our website and go to the testimonials and love stories section of our site, recently in November last year there was a wedding here in Kharkov, and I was invited by the couple. Naturally they met in the agency, so that's why I was invited. And there were some pictures inside, so if you're interested to see how it looks inside, you can check it out. This building right in front is 100 Sumskaya Street. Unfortunately has a very sad history. This is where Gestapo was the headquarters of SS, Nazi SS, during the occupation of Kharkov from late 1941 until August 23rd, 1943. So I'm continuing walking down the Sumskaya Street. That's a newer mall which they built not such a long time ago. And that's a restaurant, Trattoria. Based on the name, I would say it's an Italian place, but you never know. Sumskaya, along with the Science Avenue, where we started our journey today, is one of the central spots of the city. And that's another beautiful building. Check it out. Most of those buildings are apartments. On the first floor you will see shops and cafes and whatever, but the rest is apartments.